For coming to our panel Inside Visual Effects with Webster Colcord. This is going to be really awesome, as you can see right here. I'm going to introduce our special guest, Webster. He is a visual effects artist and animator. Can you guys give him a hand?
Thank you. I've got a lot to go through, so I'll just get started. I'm going to do a little bit of talk about a movie I worked on a few years ago, Deadpool. I see there's a lot of kids here, and I know I've worked on a lot of R-rated movies in the last few years, so I'll try to censor when I can. I'll try to cut the sound or skip over things when I can. So, yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about Deadpool later, but I wanted to talk about the beginning of my career, which started way back in the, oops, wrong button, sorry, in the 80s with Will Vinton Studios. And I wanted to show this stuff because, unfortunately, Will Vinton passed away about a week ago. And so this was a studio up in Portland, Oregon that was famous for doing the California Raisins. This is me when I was 18 in 1987, 30 years ago, if you can believe it, and animating the California Raisins for this Christmas special. And this is a raisin for a commercial. I wanted to, and I brought this guy here on the end. He's not a raisin, he's a cucumber, and he's from a sequence for a show that we did for CBS called Meet the Raisins. This is from that raisin commercial. This is the sequence from Meet the Raisins. It's kind of low res because I just took it offline.
Like a fool when you stay too long. Now I'm wondering if your love's still strong. Ooh, baby.
So
here I am.
these guys were about A big.
I'm yours, baby. And that time I went and said goodbye. Now I'm back and not ashamed to cry. Ooh, baby. Here I am. Sight, seal the limit. I'm yours. Hey, hey. Here I am. Yeah. Oh, you got my future in the game. Here I am, baby. Oh, you got my future in the game. Did a lot of foolish things that I really didn't mean. Hey, yeah, didn't I? Didn't I, baby? Seen a lot of things in this old world without trusting they do nothing, girl. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours, baby. Ooh, baby, set my soul on fire. That's how I know you're my one desire. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours.
So yeah, some of you parents might remember that. Anyway, so that was a long time ago, and that was the Claymation studio, Will Vinton Studios in Portland, Oregon. And that's where I started. This was the Tang Fruit Lips, another ad campaign that we did. This is from Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. This is building up of one of the puppets. We did this sequence called Speed Demon with this rabbit and Michael. This is for a Claymation Halloween special. These are what you call replacement animation heads, so you can make the characters squash and stretch. And this was some work I did later on my own for Nickelodeon, for Nick Jr. This is me in the studio with this camera setup. As you can see, the cameras used to be a lot bigger than they are today. And then later I worked on James and the Giant Peach for director Henry Selick, and I brought along, this is the earthworm here. So this is one of about 9 puppets of the earthworm that were done for James. This is we had different sizes of the peach. We had quarter peaches, half peaches, and depending on how much would show in camera, we would use, different sections of the peach. And this is a shot I did early on with all the characters and James on top of the peach.
Throw it here, dearie.
The lights a little bit more, that'd be great. Oh, so anyway, so this is just some of my work on James.
That's enough chit-chat. I'm freezing.
Hello, the compass is ready.
Mr. Centipede.
The earthworm was actually one of the more difficult characters to animate.
Look, everybody, we made it.
Did?
New York City.
stunning.
Oh, how glorious. Look at the park.
It's fabulous.
So this was shot in San Francisco.
They're repositionable and they just stay in the pose you put them in until you put them in another one. So in each frame, we take the part, you have 1 second of film. Sometimes you have multiple characters, and with each character, there's multiple joints. So there's a lot of things to keep track of.
To complete just 1 minute of finished film takes an entire week of animating.
Okay, pull them up.
So then later, could we dim the lights just a little bit more? Thank you. Sorry about that. Later on, Henry Selick did a movie called Monkey Bone, which is a wacky comedy with this giant puppet of a monkey. He was about this size, although this is not an armature for. This is actually what we call an armature for a stop-motion animation puppet, and it's made of metal, and it holds its pose. It's like a very expensive, well-machined, well-engineered doll, you know, or a toy like an action figure, and it has to hold kind of really extreme poses, and it kind of has to carry a lot of weight.
Fate worse than death. Well, it's been real, boss, but I gotta go buff up the old resume. Hot Figment! Hot Figment! Who needs a Figment here?
Hey, I've got one chance to get back to Julie, and you don't want to help? Fine.
Fine!
I'll just go to the land of death alone.
Go! Aren't you gonna talk me into it?
No!
Stu, talk me into it, Stu.
Okay. Well, anyway, this is some time-lapse footage I shot while I was shooting that long shot. You can see it took, I think, at least 8 days to shoot, and that's my baby visiting during one of the shoot days. But yeah, this took quite a long time. It was a very long shot, and it didn't even end up making it in the movie. And then later on, I made the transition into CG work and worked on the DreamWorks feature Ants. And then then later at the same company worked on Minority Report. We animated these creepy robot spider creature thingies that caused problems for Mr. Tom Cruise. Here he's hiding in the bathtub, and they're coming up to find him. Here's our buddy. Here's our buddy. You know, we have to shoot reference photos of the actors for any sort of interaction, so we have all these shots of him in makeup. Later on, I worked for a company called The Orphanage in San Francisco. We worked on a lot of big movies and some sort of more obscure movies. Like this is actually the highest-grossing Korean movie, I think, of all time, The Host. And we did the monster, and I was the Annam Soup on that. It's a terrific creature movie. And we worked on Iron Man, the first one. This is some of my coworkers. This is Corey Rosen in the middle and Jonathan Rothbard, and you can see early models of Iron Man on those screens. Remember when your CRT monitors were that big? You know, you could get you could warm the room with those. And then much later, I've done a lot of work on a lot of different movies over the years and TV shows, but I wanted to kind of concentrate on the stop motion animation since it's, I think, more interesting than watching people at a monitor. But this is from a TV show called Community. Do you guys know it? Anyway, it's a funny live action show, but they wanted to do an animated Christmas special. So in one episode for Community, one of the characters sort of has this hallucination or this dream that everything is in stop motion
to Winter
animation.
Wonderland?
And
Sure.
It's actually called Abed's. This is Abed as a puppet, and it's called Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas.
You, Abed, focus on the sound of my voice and let yourself relax. With each breath, you'll feel it's beginning.
So this was a really fun project with a very short schedule.
You'll feel it's beginning. All right.
These are just a few of the shots I animated. The puppets were actually very tiny, about the size of a G.I. Joe or a Barbie doll.
Beginning. All right then.
And their mouths were sort of stick-on mouths made of wax.
Amateurs. Fascinating. And publishable. And you say you have no memory of this morning. You don't recall the emotional crisis that caused you to take shelter in this delusion. It's not a delusion.
And the props on these sets, it was really fun while we were animating. He actually, he was writing with pencil in that last shot, and this was the actual pencil, and I actually did some writing on the paper to make it more realistic. But the sets were really gorgeous, and it was really fun to just look around and see that these are the different things. And Duncan is the name of the character in his office. You know, it's authentically disheveled, and he has all these decorations up, like from his world travels. There's these masks on the walls. It sort of tells a backstory of the character. So it was really fun while I was animating to just look around at the set and see what was there.
He's got a point. Kidding. What are you doing later? How about some holiday benefits?
Hey! Ixnay in front of Unkin Day.
So I got to pause here for a sec. So this is a little bit, so I think it'll be okay for the kids. I might have to censor it a little bit. But it's we did a series shortly after the community project. This is around 2011. I worked on a series of commercials for Brisk, Lipton Brisk iced tea. This is one with Danny Trejo as Machete.
Well, let me see. At the beginning of Machete, my character, is hired to kill. I am Machete, a federale who sometimes needs to negotiate with one of these until this rich guy kills my family, and I get hired to shoot a senator. But the guys who hired me shoot me instead. So at the hospital, I cut one open and escape like Rapunzel. Then I wash my hands and make love to a beautiful woman who runs a taco truck and a revolution. But a guy blows up her house. While a sexy lady cop takes a shower, and I make love to the rich guy's women. Then I wash my hands. But they kill my brother the priest and shoot the taco truck lady. And we all meet at the compound to negotiate until the sexy lady cop and I make love on a bike and ride off into the sequel. Then I wash my hands. That's Brisk, baby.
Now that was a brisk story. Tell us yours at Facebook.
So that was a lot of fun. And these are to make the character talk, we had what's called, as I mentioned earlier, replacement animation faces. In this case, we actually had a couple of half faces for his brows and a bunch of mouth pieces that we would stick into place. And these are the different mouth shapes. And so it was a kind of a limited set of expressions that he could make, but it actually worked out quite well. This is Amy Adamy, and she animated the explosions that you saw using fiberfill, like you would put in a pillow that sort of dyed different colors, and she was sort of the master at this. She also worked on Coraline. She animated the flowy mice that you see in the end credits of the movie. Yeah, she's amazing. So let's see. You kids in the front, for the next one, you might need to cover your ears for part of it. Are you guys even listening? You're not listening to me, so maybe it'll be okay. All right, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to tell you absolutely everything you need to know if you want to be normal in just 35 seconds. Here we go. Watch more television. Boil your chicken. Go on a cruise. Decorate your cubicle. Refer to your privates as naughty bits. Believe commercial. Grow a lot of mustache. Grow a front butt. Sanitize your junk. Eat normal animals. Get back to work. Go on another cruise. Say shoot Don and fudge instead of damn and But why would you want to be normal? Ah! Wait. Hey, now that's brisk, baby.
Now that.
So that's my favorite of those spots. And this is animating the exercise, the Thigh Master thing. And the sets, as you noticed, were built so they could move. So, and this is the set for the end where he sort of falls down between. It was sort of like shadow boxes. So, and this is a time lapse of one of the, I can't remember her name offhand, but she was helping me rig up the can for when Ozzy drinks here. And this is a time lapse of the animation process for that shot. And you can see that the camera is on a motion control rig over on the screen right there. So yeah, this was really fun, and I think it's the most successful of the three spots. The last of the three spots we did. Oh, and this is some reference.
Think about toast. Think about toast. Think about toast. Say shoot, Don. Say shoot and Don and fudge. Say shoot, Don and fudge. Say.
So anyway, I get asked to do. We get reference of the actors for just facial expressions and things like that. So this is the third of the brisk spots was with Eminem. and showed during the Super Bowl. And this, the schedule on this was actually a little shorter than the previous two, and it's a 30-second commercial. So it goes by really quick, but here it is.
Commercials all the time, and I always say the same thing. First, I need some hot chicks. Second, we film at my house, so I ain't gotta go anywhere. Third, I record my own song.
Yo! Bring it! Cool, refreshing, nice tea, drink it!
And once I try their products, I always hate them, so I bounce. Damn, that is pretty good! But I got one final demand.
No, we can't change the name to M&M. Shut up and drink it. Ice tea!
See? That's why I don't do commercials!
Anyway, so it was a quick one, and this is the other spots. A guy whose picture I think it's coming up here. So this is the underskull for M&M. In the other spots, we actually hand sculpted the different replacement faces. In this one, they were 3D printed, and the sculpts for the different mouth shapes were done in the computer. So these are the various different faces. With some, the paint's not finished. You can see how the teeth are not right here. But these are the different facial expression replacement faces for M&M. And this is a full set of the faces. And they were very delicate, as I recall. And they were stuck on with magnets. This is Grits. He's got a very long name, but he goes by Grits. And he sculpted all of the various characters. He's really talented. And he also did the paint job for M&M. This is the setup for the end shot, couple of shots. And this is our animation supervisor, Misha Klein. Unfortunately, I should have included a video, but the beginning sequence is all this giant wheel that rotated. The set would actually rotate. It was huge. Okay, so in addition to doing this stop motion stuff, I spent some time in LA doing previs work. This is a previs for a big shot in one of the Planet of the Apes movies where the gorilla, the bad guy, Koba gets in the tank. It takes over the tank and drives it through the wall of the human compound. So to work all that action out, I was working for a company called MPC doing previs, which is just like a moving storyboard, a low-res version of what a guide for the people on set to shoot the elements for the final shot. So I've done a lot of previs work over the years. And I guess that was the most, they did a lot of iterations of this shot in visual. All right, everybody. And in it, shortly before actually working on Planet of the Apes, and I'm going to have to cut the audio for part of this, but
everyone else say when you're ready?
Ready. Worked on,
here we go. Ready, and action.
I worked on Ted. So this was done in Boston. This is a test shot shoot to see if the motion capture on-set motion capture shoot idea would work. So as you can see, Seth is on an oversized table with oversized props over on screen right, and he's within listening distance to the actors, so they get sort of real-world interaction, so we wanted to do that on set for the movie, and we hadn't worked out the kinks here, which is why Ted's a little jittery.
Good, I've been good. I see not much going on. My company's 20th anniversary is next week, so it's really
Company's turn. She gets it. She enjoys my humor.
I'm surprised John didn't tell you already. It seems like you guys.
So the lip sync will be done later by the animation team.
Oh, well, it's funny. And we usually the first item on our agenda, right, John, is what's going on with Laura.
You can see how all the motions of Seth are scaled down.
And so I'm surprised that one slipped through the cracks.
Well, it didn't. I mean, what do you mean? We talk about it all the time.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, remember Ted last week we were talking about how neat all Laura's shoes are.
That lengthy conversation about you.
Saying
so right away we kind of knew from this test that it would work.
But you have sort of like a legal.
Then later, after the movie was a hit, we did an appearance of Ted on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
of all, you look great, very plush. Congratulations on the success of the movie. How's everything? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. This is so much fun.
It's great to have you here, and I loved the movie. I thought it was really hilarious, and you were great in it too.
Yeah, well, I wanted to do a comedy. My last movie was, of course, my rainforest documentary, Stop Shopping.
I saw that. Very powerful.
Did you see that? Yeah.
Very powerful.
Thank you.
Now, are you getting recognized a lot now that you've done the movie?
Yeah, I am actually. The other day I was at the mall and I was getting mobbed, and I had to run into a Build-A-Bear just to blend in. It was.
Well, that must be fun. No, that must be like going home for you.
No, it's not fun. Have you ever been in one of them Build-A-Bear places? It's sick.
Yeah.
It's sick. Why are you guys Frankensteining bears like Nazi doctors? What kind of species are you that you would do that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. That's humans for you. You comfort us and we dismember you.
That's great, pal.
Do you have any plans for the holidays?
I'm going to go to the mall and ask Santa for a penis.
Apologies to the parents there. And you'll see a little behind the scenes making up for that. This was actually the most fun thing we did, and I think one of the best things we did with Ted. So it was one take, and we recorded motion capture for the talking segment. That's our VFX supervisor, Blair Clark. We recorded motion capture live off to the side of the main stage. So myself and the visual effects team were off behind the curtain on the screen left with Seth in a chair in the motion capture suit with a live audience there. Behind that curtain on the left is where we were. It's actually a very small theater. The audience actually isn't very big.
Great, very plush. Congratulations on the success of the movie. How's everything? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. This is so much fun.
There.
That must be fun. No, that must be like going home for you.
No, it's not fun.
And my job is
to one of them Build-A-Bear places.
Process
It's
the
sick.
motion capture.
Yeah. It's sick. Why are you guys Frankensteining bears like Nazi doctors?
But this was super fun too, because the audience could hear Ted.
What kind of species are you that you would do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's humans for you. You comfort us and we dismember you.
That's great, pal.
Do you have any plans for the holidays?
I'm going to go to the mall and ask Santa for a penis.
The big game.
So yeah, that was super fun, and then and the audience, like I said, they could hear Ted, but they couldn't see Ted, so they kind of laughed. It was kind of nervous laughter, and then afterwards they pulled back the curtain and revealed Seth there with the suit, and it was just super fun. So that was a great, and like I said, it was a one take, so we were there for about 2 hours, and then we were done. And then months later, it was snuck, it was edited into the live show, or they played the tape of it during the live show, and people went bananas. They thought Ted was a real person. So it was a great trick and really fun. Then later I worked on Ted 2, which was kind of exactly the same thing I did on Ted 1, doing previs and on-set motion capture. Well, I was doing more on-set motion capture work than I did on the first film. But the innovative thing we did was for the dance sequence at the beginning of the movie, we recorded a whole bunch of different motion capture actors. Or about 4 or 5 different dancers played did Ted's choreography during the one number. So on screen right, you'll see a more or less finished version of the animation of the bear. And then in the middle, you'll see the processed motion capture in sync with the reference footage of the actor of the dancer on the left. You can see it was different dancers for different bits of his action. So this was the really innovative thing we did for Ted 2. In Ted 1, we were just trying to get it to work in general, but on Ted 2, we took it a little further. And this set was at the 20th Century Fox lot, soundstage. because it's motion capture, you know, we have a lot of flexibility to redo things in post. So originally the choreography was different, and that's why you see some of it. The reference footage was shot on the stage, off to the side of the main sort of dance area, and then later we reshot some of it when the choreographer decided to change the moves. We shot it on the empty stage. Likewise, on the first and second Ted movies, a lot of the motion capture and the lines for the character were redone in post and test screened. So, you know, my job would also be to do test versions of different jokes with Ted, sort of animated or using the motion capture to see how they would play. Kind of motion capture system we're using on the Ted movies is not a traditional motion capture system. It's actually a suit that has different sensors that work like your cell phone. And it detects, it's called inertial motion capture. It detects the motion of each sensor, and it builds a skeleton using the different sensors. So this is the team, this is the visual effects team on Ted 2 with Mark Wahlberg in front of one of the houses on the Universal lot. So then this brings me to my work coming back to the Bay Area to work for Atomic Fiction on Deadpool. This is the director Tim Miller on set in Vancouver with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. And this was the main sequence we worked on, which was the freeway chase and the sequence just following. This is our VFX supervisor, Jonathan Rothbart, who was at the company I mentioned earlier, The Orphanage. And these are some of the different companies that worked on the first Deadpool movie: Digital Domain, Weta, Blur. And Blur is actually owned by Tim Miller, the director. And we all knew him from some people who had worked at both companies, both The Orphanage and Blur. He's been doing great CG for 20 years, so we really didn't want to mess it up. This is a breakdown of the visual effects in the freeway chase sequence. A lot of people don't realize how much of the freeway chase was CG. Vancouver to look like Vancouver. So in the later sequence, we had to change the background buildings to make it look like a sort of more dirty city. And this is the sequence as we got it from the production. So this is like the previs version of the sequence that's given to us the VFX department. So it's super rough. You obviously that wouldn't be your final movie, right? No. So we have to take those elements and make it into the final effect, and to do that we kind of have to take things apart. You can see here, this is really impressive actually. This is the, oops, let me go back there for a quick second. So you can see all the rigging in the car. You can see all the cables. All of that had to be painted out. And it's kind of amazing that it's not there, so that's all roto paint like in Photoshop. This is, speaking, I was talking about taking the sequence apart to sort of put it back together. Okay, I've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to speed through some of this. Anyway, this is the layout. This is the sort of the super rough layout. These are some of our assets. This is the Ducati motorcycle, the rigging version of it. And this is a camera car that mimics a kind of a camera car that you would use in live action. And this is an example of that camera car being used to choreograph the camera in the CG set. And this is the final sort of layout version of the shot before lighting. And here you can see that same motorcycle you saw earlier in just a low poly model with the more or less final lighting. And these are some of the other assets as lighting tests. This is the real Deadpool on the left, the CG Deadpool on the right. This is the motorcycle rider. This is going to be a little gory here, sorry. This is Thug A. They all have codes. Thug B, I think. Thug B doesn't, that's the gory version of Thug B, sorry. This is Thug B with the SUV, and those are references up at the top. This is a CFX test, a cloth effects test. This shows how Deadpool's suit will wrinkle, yeah. The different, so that all has to be done in simulation software. I'll skip over this. This is soft rigid body dynamics for the Thug B getting dragged behind the car. So we kind of use simulation to get this sort of ragdoll dynamics. And this shows you some of the simulation passes done on debris after the initial animation is approved. So all of those little bits, usually those are not animated by us. Although sometimes we have to hand animate things. My buddy Cameron animated the hubcap.
Wait!
And then we worked on the sequence after, but I can't really
why
go
the red
through that
suit.
'cause I don't have enough time. I'm going to just show you a couple more things. So I still, I do CG and I also do stop motion and I do clay animation. This is a 1-minute sequence for a Les Claypool and Sean Lennon music video that I did a couple years ago. Just a 1 minute of clay at the end of this sequence called Bubbles Burst. It's Noah Fielding playing Michael Jackson. He's a British comedian. And the song is written by Sean Lennon and Les Claypool. And Sean Lennon was in the Moonwalker movie as a kid. And I worked on the Moonwalker movie, was my first feature credit. So this was all done sort of with a sense of nostalgia for the whole Michael Jackson thing. Although we had to do a caricature of Noah Fielding as Michael Jackson. So it's not quite Michael Jackson, it's not quite Noah Fielding, but it's somewhere in between. And I thought we pulled that off. This is just time lapse of me animating the last shot in that piece. So I've done a bit of work for Les Claypool, the musician, over the years. And finally, for the kids, because I added this at the last minute a few years ago, because I was so worried because I worked on so many R-rated things over the years that there wouldn't be anything here for kids. So I worked for the company that does Robot Chicken a few years ago, and we did some pieces for the WWE, the wrestling entertainment company. And they were sort of for Mattel and the WWE. They were sort of an ad for these wrestling toys with these stretchy arms. They call it stretch mode, and it's called Slam City. So.
Attention, superstars! It's me, the Finisher! On behalf of WWE Chairman Mr. McMahon, you're all fired! Enjoy your day jobs in Slam City!
You have to get day jobs.
The Finisher!
Fresh coffee coming right up.
Best coffee ever, made by Alberto Del Rio. You ever need a dog?
So let me pause for a sec. So this was all new to me. I'm not a big wrestling fan. I don't. And I guess each of the wrestlers has a signature thing. Alberto Del Rio has this thing where he loves the applause of the crowd. So whenever anybody says his name, he's like, "Hey, everybody!" And then later you'll see, I guess, Damien Sandow, I think, and his, I think it's him. Anyway, his thing is he's really rude, and he says, "You're welcome." That's his big thing. So anyway, we had to fit all of that into the animation.
I'm taking a pound. You let me know.
Pardon me, Borista. There's foam in my no-foam half-calf soy peppermint latte with a splash of skim. Yet, I hate foam!
I can fix that for you, sir. We aim to please here at...
Oh, terribly sorry. I seem to have spilled my beverage. You're welcome!
This is me, Cafe Casa, hombre!
The coffee house of Alberto Del Rio!
This next order is to go.
Never in all my days have I seen such a case of rabies.
This one's on the house. Courtesy of...
Alberto Del Rio!
So that was for the kids. That was super. They still, you can find all those online. There's like 12 different episodes. Same team. Some of the same team is subsequently done. There's sort of a series like this for Hot Wheels now, where the Hot Wheels cars have adventures with the animated with the toys. So anyway, that's it for me. And you can find my Instagram down here. I have pathetically small Instagram following, so please find me on Instagram. Anyway, come up here and take a look. Just don't touch these guys. You can touch this one as much as you want. That's it.